Pondering God, Chapter 34. Look, it's the Lord. Listening to the scripture reading this morning from John chapter 21, I was reminded of Forrest Gump, the man and the movie. This scene in John always takes me to Forrest, and I've used this example before because it's so spot on. I haven't seen the movie in years, but there are many poignant scenes that come to mind when I think of it. One scene, both poignant and humorous, is toward the latter half of the movie when Forrest has become the owner of not only a shrimp boat, but a business under the name of Bubba Gump Shrimp. By this time in the story, Forrest is alone, having had a falling out with his good friend Lieutenant Dan. It has been years since the two were together, and one day, as Forrest is out on a shrimp boat, cruising into port, he notices sitting on a dock along the shore a familiar figure. It's his old friend Lieutenant Dan. Forrest can't contain himself, and as he waves with excitement, he jumps off the boat and swims to the dock. Of course, his boat continues moving through the water and eventually crashes to a stop. When Forrest climbs out of the water, he asks, "Lieutenant Dan, what are you doing here?" Every time I see or remember this scene, I choke up and tears come to my eyes. The love Forrest has for his friend Dan is a wonderful thing to behold. There is a scene from the Bible that is very similar to this scene, and it involves my favorite apostle, Peter. By this time, the resurrected Jesus appeared to the disciples a couple of times, but has not yet returned to heaven. Peter's last encounter with his Lord has left him despondent and ashamed. Even though he swore vehemently that he wouldn't, Peter denied the Lord 3 times. Peter has since gone back to his fishing boat, convinced that his days of serving the Lord as his disciple are over. On this occasion, Peter and some of the others have been out fishing all night and are returning to land empty-handed. An unidentified person on the shore shouts out and asks them if they have caught anything, and they reply that they haven't. The lone figure suggests they throw their nets on the other side of the boat, and when they do, their nets become so full they can't haul them into the boat. At this point in the story, John must have recalled a similar event from a few years earlier, from Luke chapter 5, when Jesus first made them fishers of men. And when he realizes who the lone figure on the shore is, as described in John chapter 21, verse 7, that disciple, therefore, whom Jesus loved, said to Peter, "It is the Lord." And so when Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his outer garment, he stripped down for work, and threw himself into the sea. Peter was so excited to see the Lord again that he jumped into the water and swam 100 yards to shore. There are several lessons from this passage: grace, forgiveness, the Lord's instructions. But the thing that stands out to me is the unrestrained love that Peter has for Jesus, a love that will eventually lead him to die for the Lord, something he once said he would do, but was not prepared for until much later in his life. From now on, when you see or recall this scene in the movie, think not of Forrest and Lieutenant Dan, but think of Peter and his best friend, Jesus.